For over 2 decades, the Kremlin has woven an elaborate tale of an invincible industrial powerhouse, where technology reigns supreme, and its military stands as the mightiest force on earth. But as the dust settles on the battlefields, the truth is unmasking itself in shocking clarity. What you see on your screen are not cinematic relics of fiction, they are grim realities from post-war Russia in 2025, decaying, 70-year-old T-55 and T-62 tanks, rust-coated and devoid of purpose. These forsaken vehicles, once symbols of strength, now languish in junkyards, hastily ousted from museums and military storages. Loaded onto freight cars in a desperate bid, they mark a poignant surrender of a once great power scrambling to arm its troops with scrapped relics. And amidst this backdrop of decay, observe the lethal transformation emerging from the factories of Prague, T-72 Scarab tanks, fully outfitted with advanced NATO technology, rolling out like embodiments of rebirth. This stark juxtaposition unveils a tale of collapse shadowing a once mighty realm. This is not merely about the superior steel, it represents the revival of a nation once shackled by Soviet dominance. The Czech Republic is not merely delivering tanks, it's merging the military finesse of Ukraine with its industrial capability to forge a new era of deadly armed drones. A former ally has coldly halted Russia's technological advance, signaling not just an arms exchange, but highlighting the Kremlin's impending industrial demise. Each track of these formidable tanks carries more than just the refuse of battle, they embody a whisper of vengeance steeped in historical significance, a simmering response that has been brewing for decades. To fully grasp the implications of this alliance, we must momentarily traverse back to history's pivotal moment. Imagine August 1968, hope vibrates through the air as the Prague Spring bursts forth, only to be suffocated under the unyielding treads of T-55 and T-62 tanks. These Soviet symbols crushed not just a society but the spirit of a nation. Today, the echoes of that oppression resonate again in Ukraine, where the mentality that sought to shatter dreams remembers. Each T-72 tank revived by Czech innovation, dispatched to aid their steadfast ally, serves as a muted vow for accountability. History does not merely repeat, it seeks retribution with an artful vengeance. The tracks that once oppressed now strive to liberate. The past remains intricately woven with the present as the memories of Czechoslovakia, once an essential armory within the Warsaw Pact, resurge. Armed with knowledge etched into their very being, the Czech engineers and workers possess an unparalleled understanding of the weaponry they once built. And now, that expertise is poised to bring down the master they once served. In an industrial renaissance contrasting sharply with the chaos engulfing Russia, the ex-Soviet territory emerges with renewed purpose. The sanctions frayed the faux strength of the Russian military-industrial complex, exposing its underlying rot. Key components sourced from the West were severed, crippling massive manufacturers like Uralvagantsabad, the largest tank producer in Russia. Desperation fueled the Kremlin's outrageous moves to refurbish obsolete T-55s and T-62s, turning them into comical spectacles on the fronts. How does this evolving partnership pierce the heart of the Kremlin's military machine? It's a dual-pronged assault of ingenuity and might. The resurrection of once dominant Soviet machinery blends with cutting-edge strategies, from remolded tanks to precision-targeting drones. The T-72, a titan of yesteryears, is reborn as a predator, a hybrid engineered for contemporary combat scenarios, armed with advanced communication systems and laser-guided targeting technology. Now, the battlefield dances to the rhythm of modern warfare, making every engagement a deadly ballet of strategy and precision. The Czech Republic and Ukraine's combined industrial prowess revolutionizes engagement, adapting to the nuances of the front lines. With each updated T-72, the balance of power shifts, paving the way for sweeping counteroffensives and instilling a new resolve in Ukraine's mechanized brigades. This evolution from relics of oppression to tools of liberation personifies a grand narrative, a poetic irony where history's shackles become the keys to freedom. Could this formidable fusion of past and present signal a turning point that reshapes the very landscape of conflict? What awaits on these blood-soaked fields? Only time will reveal if the tides have indeed turned, leading to an unexpected dawn of justice long thirsted for. Imagine a world where the echoes of crushed dreams still whisper through the cobblestone streets. Feel the summer air thick with the scent of blooming linden trees, now tainted by the rumble of heavy treads. Back in August 1968, the vibrant spirit of the Prague Spring, visions of a kinder socialism unfurling like spring petals in Prague squares, was ground to dust beneath the unyielding tracks of Warsaw-packed T-55 and T-62 tanks. Those machines, marked with the Soviet emblem, stood as grim icons of how Moscow smothered a people's aspirations, all in the name of so-called unity. The fragile hopes shattered that fateful day now rise anew in Ukraine's unyielding stand, while the same overbearing mindset that trampled those ideals attempts to impose its will elsewhere with ruthless persistence. Why does every Czech upgraded T-72 rolling toward Ukraine feel like a quiet vow, calling for answers from that long-ago summer? History doesn't echo exactly, it rhymes with fierce poetic justice. The very treads that once bound Prague in chains now pivot to free Ukrainian lands, grinding through mud that smells of rain-soaked earth and resolve. Yet, woven into this tale of reckoning is a hidden layer of industrial might, long overlooked. In the Soviet shadow, Czechoslovakia wasn't just a distant outpost. It pulsed as a vital forge of the Warsaw Pact, crafting T-72 tanks, rugged carriers, and precise artillery through the deft hands of Czech and Slovak artisans. Their expertise ran deeper than any Moscow desk jockey's grasp, they mapped every rivet, every seam, every hidden flaw in the behemoths they built. They held the blueprint to the beast's soul. Today, that profound insight flips the script, turning former servitude into a masterstroke of ingenuity. It's more than mechanical edge, it's the inner spark of knowledge striking back. Russia confronts a rival playing its own game, one intimately versed in the tools it wields, far beyond its own fading recollections. The Kremlin blindside? A foe who deciphers its arsenal like an open book. In stark, heartbreaking contrast to this rebirth of heritage and craft lurks Russia's unraveling disarray, a spectacle of erosion that chills the air like winter frost on rusted hulls. Western measures peeled back the veil on Moscow's vaunted military works, revealing a core eaten through like damp wood. What shocking desperation gripped the heart of that once mighty realm? In the previous segment, we explored the shocking unraveling of Russia's military-industrial complex, a crumbling facade exposed by Western sanctions. The once imposing strength of the Kremlin is now laid bare, revealing a chaotic collapse that was unforeseen by its leaders. Factories like Uralvagantsabad, Russia's primary tank manufacturer, have faced severe disruptions. Critical parts required for production, such as optics, bearings, and electronic circuits from the West, have vanished. In a desperate attempt to maintain its military prowess, the Kremlin decided to modernize long-forgotten relics from the past, like the T-62 and T-55 tanks. These relics had languished in storage for decades, now being hurriedly turned into operational equipment through a haphazard modernization effort. The revamping amounted to little more than the awkward addition of metal cages, transforming these machines into a laughable parody of their former selves. This was the dire fate that awaited the once glorious industrial might of Russia, relegated to mere scraps. But how does this disarray echo through the Kremlin's war machine? The answer lies in a cunning and ruthless dual strategy of revival. First, there's the resurgence of iron and fire. These ancient Soviet tanks are being reborn as modern combatants. The second aspect focuses on gaining dominance in the skies, producing precision drone craft drawn from first-hand wartime experience. At the heart of this transformation lies the T-72 tanks, former symbols of pride for Russia now reduced to mere dust and decay on battlefields. Although they may boast numerical superiority on paper, the harsh truth is these vehicles have become easy prey for cutting-edge anti-tank missiles and smart munitions. Enter the innovative spirit of the Czech Republic. Companies like Excalibur Army and Czechoslovak Group take these antiquated Soviet models and breathe new life into them, morphing them into astonishing 21st-century predators, known as T-72 Scarebears, or the Bug. This is no simple repair, what occurs here is a complete reincarnation. The focus of modernization is on transforming vulnerabilities into strengths. At the core of this rebirth is the British Perkins CV-12 engine. With a staggering output of 1,000 horsepower, it significantly enhances the tank's power-to-weight ratio. Imagine a beast, once limping through the war-torn mud, now roaring forward with reinvigorated might. But just how far can these upgrades take them against the advanced systems they face? With every mile they advance, shadows gather. What waits for them in the trenches, victory or annihilation? Can you fathom the sheer audacity of an empire crumbling under its own weight, while ancient iron beasts rise anew to exact revenge? Imagine the deafening roar of gunfire echoing through history, the acrid stench of burned gunpowder filling your lungs, and the cold metal grip of a tank turret under trembling fingers. What if these relics weren't just scraps, but harbingers of total obliteration for Moscow's lies? Stirring from the rubble of Soviet glory, Czech ingenuity breathes life into the T-72, transforming rusty hulks into unstoppable predators. The heart of this revival pulses with the British Perkins CV-12 engine, unleashing 1,000 horsepower that rockets the tank's agility forward, conquering Ukraine's treacherous mud and mountains with effortless power. This mighty engine, echoed in some Challenger variants, lets the Czech T-72 M4CZ maneuver like a shadow in the fog, darting through artillery barrages and cratered fields that swallow lesser machines whole. Sensory overload hits as protection evolves. This bare metal hull now cloaks in dynamic reactive armor, Western-grade blocks that ignite on impact. Feel the jolt of explosion, taste the metallic tang in the air as anti-tank missiles shatter harmlessly against erupting armor, a first line of defense that defies death. Yet the tank's true metamorphosis ignites in its senses, primitive optics ripped out, replaced by cutting-edge, third-generation thermal imaging that pierces blackest night. Through this Czech-Israeli creation, the trial electronic countermeasure system shields against mine's magnetic whispers and proximity threats. Flipping darkness into a crypt for Russian crews and a fertile hunt for Ukrainian eyes. Rhetorical thunder, how does a blind beast suddenly stalk? Ukraine's reborn T-70s now spot foes miles off by their engines' feverish glow, unleashing lethal fire before the enemy blinks. But the onslaught deepens, digital ballistic computers and laser rangefinders snap locks with near-perfect precision, each shot a symphony of destruction in mud-soaked carnage. NATO standard comms weave it into a lethal web, sharing whispers of data with artillery thunders and command posts in real time. No longer a T-72, it's a hybrid horror, Soviet bones wrapped in NATO flesh, a hunter that humiliates Moscow's unaided hacks. These engineered nightmares pour from factories, bolstering Ukraine's brigades with unstoppable might. Now, the plot thickens in a twist that could cripple Russia forever. What if the skies themselves turned against the invaders? Layer 2 unveils not mere tech exchange, but a fusion of genius that bleeds combat's brutal lessons. Czech lines deliver industrial might, unstinting Western parts, and razor-sharp engineering, where solder sizzles and welds hum to life. Ukraine counters with irreplaceable treasure, war's distilled essence, forged in flames against Russian onslaughts. They crave for weeks how air defenses falter at specific frequencies, how tactics exploit command weak spots, the tangible pulse of doom now birthed in every drone's electronic veins. This collaborative storm births custom killers, not shelf stock, predators engineered to exploit Russian flanks like surgical saboteurs. The cliffhanger looms, sustainable rage arms Ukraine eternally, morphing from aid-dependent underdog to self-reliant titan. What ironies await when your own mastered tools drive the final stake into your empire's heart. Sharp tang of turning tides hangs heavy, promising a drone-armed rebirth that could shatter all pretenses. What if Soviet-era factories, the very cradle of Moscow's military might, are birthing killers designed to strike back at their creators? Imagine the betrayal of steel and secrets unleashing hell on those who forged them. Can a nation's forgotten arsenal become its nemesis? This stunning industrial flipping tables unveil raw humiliation for Russia and roaring victory for Ukraine. In the last chapter, those hybrid beasts, merging aging Soviet steel with cutting-edge NATO tech and hunter instincts, are now charging into Ukrainian armored brigades. The second wave, far deadlier, is soaring into the skies. It's no basic tech swap. It's a symphony of industry and war-hardened wisdom fused together. The Czech consortium unleashes its manufacturing might. Access to top-tier Western parts. Engineering brilliance honed over decades. Yet Ukraine injects a treasure no billions can buy. Experiences forged in the crimson forge of battle. Blood-soaked lessons from endless years clashing with Russian hordes. Ukrainian innovators absorbed the rhythms firsthand. Frequencies where Russian air defenses falter. Tactics to shatter their illusions of invincibility. They mapped the soft underbelly. The critical instance of Russian command hubs. Supply chains left exposed. Electronic warfare outposts craving a fatal blind spot. Now this goldmine of insight morphs into lethal hardware. Emerging from Czech assembly lines. These fresh joint-ventured armed unmanned aerial vehicles. Not generic shelf sweepers. Predictor drones fine-tuned to savage Russian vulnerabilities directly. Why such impact? This production pathway endures. Enduring unlike fleeting aid infusions valued in billions. It empowers Ukraine to steer its fate. Crafting homegrown munitions. Adaptive smart weapons evolving with the war's pulse. For the Kremlin, this nightmarish rupture looms. Picture a Ukraine no longer reliant on outsider tools. Dominating with self-evolved precision. Weapons outpacing Russian adaptations relentlessly. Tech revolt in full swing. An industrial titan once enslaved by Moscow. Generating its demise through ingenious treachery. Ramifications of this twin industrial tech upheaval ripple beyond Prague's forges or Kiev's labs. Early war realities hammered Ukraine's core flaw. Absence of robust modern armored forces to smash Russia's labyrinthine barriers. Mine-laced mazes. Anti-tank trenches etched deep. Concrete fortresses sculpted meticulously. Czech modernized T-72 Scarabaeus tanks bridge this chasm masterfully. These armored titans grant Ukrainian mechanized brigades their overdue edge. Shattering stalemates. Penetrating enemy shields. Igniting sweeping counter-assaults at last. Each tank fires with pinpoint aim on the move. Advanced targeting systems locking deadly. Enhanced durability through state-of-the-art armors resisting. But flashbacks. Clutches whisper insistent. Trace back to flickering memories of 1968. Booming thunder of tank treads crushing cobblestones. Acrid stench of diesel fumes choking the air. Grinding halt of hopes, freedom's fragile petals trampled under Soviet heels. Grimy fingerprints on pale faces in the streets. That raw, metallic bite lingers. Evoking the sensory anguish of dreams extinguished. Now, those engineered bugs defy their extinct masters. Yet the spiral tightens. What unforeseen price will this alliance exact on the buried ghosts? As skies fill with buzzing predators. Will Russia's skies bleed anew? Or rise a dawn where recycled machines herald true liberation? What twist awaits when past victories turn into current chains? Hold that thought. The horizon teems with shadowed revelations. Can Moscow's rusting empire truly crumble under its own reshaped spawn? Continuing from the previous part. Ukraine has been held back by insufficient powerful modern armored units, unable to break through Russian defense lines choked with minefields, anti-tank ditches, and concrete fortifications. Now, the modernized T-72 Scarab tanks from the Czech Republic are stepping in to fill this crushing gap. Can you imagine the shock of shining new tanks rolling out not from rusted Soviet factories, but from gleaming workshops in Prague? It's a twist that humiliates Moscow's bravado and empowers Ukraine with unstoppable force. These Scarab tanks grant Ukraine's mechanized brigades the legendary power to seize initiative after endless attritional battles. They pierce Russian lines like lightning through a storm and unleash massive counter-offensives that shatter defenses. Picture the earth trembling under their tracks, the air thick with the roar of engines. Each tank fires accurately on the move, its advanced targeting zeroing in with laser precision. Reinforced armor shunts away shells, its durability a fortress against what Russian forces can hurl. Integrated NATO systems link them into a web of instant communication, transforming isolated threats into a coordinated siege. This isn't mere aid, it's a steel fist, pounding straight into the enemy's core, where their defenses crack like brittle ice under relentless hammer blows. Warriors know a brutal truth: dominance of the skies seizes control of the ground below. And now, the skies shift irreversibly. Imagine the whir of propellers as armadas of next-generation armed unmanned aerial vehicles emerge from joint Czech-Ukrainian production lines. These aren't sporadic gifts, they're unending torrents flooding Ukraine with vigilant aerial eyes and relentless kamikaze drones. Swarms hunt deep behind enemy lines, targeting Russian artillery batteries with explosive fury, jamming electronic warfare stations into silent graves, obliterating command centers mid-thought, and slicing apart logistics convoys like razors through flesh. The acrid scent of burning ordnance lingers, the distant booms echoing hopelessness. With each depot blasted, each HQ erased, the Russian army blinds itself further, its essence rotting in piecemeal despair. This merciless pursuit poisons their resolve, turning frontline fighters into shadows, crumbling the will to endure. The true battlefield wages in the minds and hearts of soldiers. Envision yourself as that exhausted Russian warrior, huddled in mud-caked trenches, gnawing on meager rations, your hands stiff from clutching outdated gear. Suddenly, the ancient T-72 you rely on, jammed, blind in the night, sputtering like a dying beast, faces off against its deceived kin. Modernized by foes, it stalks from afar, its thermal eyes piercing shadows like predators in heat, locking on your heat signature before you stir. The ground rumbles as it closes, an upgraded nightmare born from stolen designs, turning your own weapon against you with deadly, humiliating precision. The clank of metal, the hiss of missiles, it's a psychological abyss where propaganda crumbles. Exposing your technological frailty. This is the moment everything collapses. The stories your commanders spun evaporate in terror, leaving you weaponless before an unstoppable evolution that mocks and destroys. Duty shatters like glass underfoot, the realization dawning that your army's might is now the enemy's mastered blade, cutting deeper into isolation and fear. What dread invades when the hunter becomes the hunted? Its every roar a reminder that escape twists into inevitability. There's no fleeing this reversal, the reversal that claws at your soul, promising only surrender or oblivion. How does a soldier endure when the very machines of dominance betray? The answer lurks in despair, where will crumbles into dust, and loss echoes without end. But this agony hides a vengeful storm brewing. Can the untamed fury turn the tide, or will it consume everything? In a world of escalating tension, a stark contrast emerges between the propaganda promises of an invincible military and the grim reality of war. Imagine a soldier standing on the front lines, armed with a failing tank from decades past, scrounging for food and ammunition. Suddenly, the ground shakes as a sleek, modernized enemy T-72 emerges from the brush, its advanced systems allowing it to spot the weary soldier long before he sees it. This moment is a crushing realization that the once mighty Soviet army's bluff has been called. Morale crumbles as Russian soldiers witness the very weapons they once wielded transformed into instruments of their own demise. The psychological impact of seeing their outdated machinery outclassed, outmaneuvered, and repurposed against them is devastating. This new wave of tanks and armed drones is not merely designed to destroy, they are engineered to dismantle the spirits of the Russian troops. The essence of this strategic partnership between Ukraine and modernizing allies isn't just in technological superiority. It embodies a cunning asymmetry that dismantles Russia's outdated military strategy. Instead of the traditional, lumbering tactics that choke innovation, this new warfare embraces flexibility, intelligence, and affordability. While the West might have the option to dispatch costly, state-of-the-art tanks, a smarter choice unfolds. Thousands of Soviet-era relics collected from storage yards in Eastern Europe are being refurbished into formidable machines in places like the Czech Republic. This is the art of military revival, transforming stockpiles into powerhouse fighters without the financial burden of developing entirely new war machines. This ingenious approach not only sustains the economic demands of warfare but also erodes Russia's confidence, making their once assured long-term strategy appear increasingly futile. The specters of their own past now haunt them, the remnants of a bygone empire now march into battle against them, embodiments of their own technological decay. As these T-72s and drones roll forward from factories to the front lines of Ukraine, they symbolize not simply metal and electronics, but a profound shift in the battlefield dynamic where the past is repurposed to reclaim the future. In the ongoing chaos of war, a shocking truth emerges. The very weapons that once epitomized Russia's might are now serving as instruments of its undoing. The tanks and armed drones rolling out from the Czech Republic represent far more than just metal and technology. They are the crumbling gravestones marking the demise of what was once the formidable Soviet military-industrial complex. These machines are loud, heavy, and dangerous. They symbolize the technological decay and moral bankruptcy that has engulfed the Kremlin. Yet, they also come as a beacon of resilience and a desperate quest for justice from a nation that has risen from the ashes of subjugation. Imagine 50 years past, the iron giants of the Kremlin crushed the hopes of Prague with overwhelming force. Now, those same machines have morphed into liberation tools for Ukraine, targeting the arrogance that inflicted suffering for so long. This dramatic irony serves as the Kremlin's worst nightmare. The very monsters they birthed have now returned to haunt them, threatening to erase their legacy from history. As the climax nears, a powerful question lingers: how does it feel to face your own creation, transformed into an enemy? A reckoning is on the horizon, and it's one the Kremlin may not be able to withstand.